Hello and welcome back, and everybody. Today I got another deck tech here for you, and this one is for Ariette of the Charmed Apple. She's a brand new commander that just got spoiled for Wilds of Eldraine. That was starting to spoil yesterday as of the 15th. We're still getting commanders from it, so I thought I'd throw this one together. It seems really fun. It seems up my alley. Plus I already have a Zank deck that is kind of similar to this one. It's a pacifism style deck that's just all about auras and stuff in mono white. So I thought moving this over to a Orzhov deck would be quite fun. Let's go over the commander here. It's Ariette of the Charmed Apple, 1, a white and a black for a 2/4 human warlock. It says each creature that's enchanted by an aura you control can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. Also, at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of auras you control. This is probably the most interesting aura commander in Orzhov now for me, or probably overall. You know, I had a Sithis aura deck at one point that was pretty strong, but it was just too much to do. You really took these 5-10 minute turns. It was just annoying. I also had a curse deck, which is a sub theme in this one here. I'll get to that a little bit later. So basically what you're going to be wanting to do is use your auras to either enchant your commander for commander damage. You want to enchant your opponent's creatures to be able to hit your opponents because they can't attack you when you enchant them. So something like your All That Glitters or something like that you would enchant on a creature that you control, you can enchant onto an opponent's creature. It can't attack you because of your commander's ability, so they're going to swing it at somebody else and it's buffed up. So you can use it that way, or you can use it with curses, which is the main route that I took. So we'll go over some of the curses here. We got Cruel Reality up first, 5 black for an aura curse. Enchant player. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. If that player can't, they lose 5 life. So the curses that are forcing our opponents to lose life are going to be our best options because that's our main win con in the deck. You know, we're going to want to spam a bunch of auras, play them all out onto the field, have our commander trigger as much as we can, and drain out our opponents that way. So another one in the like for that theme is Curse of Fool's Wisdom, 4 black for a curse. Enchant player. Whenever enchanted player draws a card, they lose 2 life and you gain 2 life. Also, it has madness for 3 and a black. However, I don't think we have much, if any, discard in this deck, so we won't be able to be using that one all too often. And as you can tell, Cruel Reality, Curse of Fool's Wisdom, both 7 and 6 mana spells respectively. So a great way we can cheat those mana costs is with something like Curse of Misfortunes, 4 and a black for an aura curse. Enchant player. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may search your library for a curse card that doesn't have the same name as a curse attached to enchanted player, put it onto the battlefield, attach to that player, then shuffle your library. So this is obviously the best curse in the deck because it just lets us get every other curse we want out and throw them on our opponents. That will just make our commander's ability that much stronger and get us closer to winning the game. So obviously just go through all of the curses. The only one that was really good that I didn't put in the deck was Overwhelming Splendor because it's just too strong in my opinion. I think it's kind of unfun to play with or even against, really. So I didn't put that one in, but you can go through the curses yourself and look which one you want to put in your deck. I have about 13 in the deck and the rest is just other sorts of auras I'll go through here. So we're going to obviously want to protect our commander. So first up here, I got Blessing of Leeches, 2 and a black for an aura. With flash, it says at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life, but you can pay 0 to regenerate enchanted creature. So with all the life that we're actually gaining off of our commander, it's pretty negligible losing that 1 life on your upkeep to be able to regenerate your commander. I think that's really strong, especially that you can do it over and over again for no cost. So it's pretty much impossible to destroy your commander in combat or through kill spells, anything like that. So Blessing of Leeches is a great protection spell. Another one I got here, Gift of Immortality, 2 and a white for an aura. Enchant creature. When enchanted creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Return Gift of Immortality to the battlefield attached to that creature at the beginning of the next end step. So if you have this out on your commander, they go to remove your commander. Both of these things go to the graveyard. Your commander comes back and they have one opportunity to get your commander off the battlefield with a second spell or ability before Gift of Immortality comes back on the next end step. So this is a really good card. It's going to force your opponents to use multiple removal spells if they're going to want to get your commander off the field, which most of the time I don't think is going to happen. So you're pretty much going to be good on that front. Next up, since I have so many auras in the deck, Umbra Mystic, 2 and a white for a 2/2 human wizard. It says auras attached to permanents you control have totem armor, which if you don't know means if enchanted permanent you control would be destroyed, instead remove all damage from it and destroy an aura attached to it instead. This is an absolute slam dunk in the deck. I have some other Umbras in the deck that give totem armor just to have that extra protection, but since we have so many auras in the deck on its own, Umbra Mystic's a fantastic fit to keep your stuff protected. And say your opponents actually do get around your protection and end up removing some of your auras or creatures or anything like that, your permanents, we have some recursion in the deck to be able to get those back. So first up, we got Lurrus of the Dream Den, 1 and 2 hybrid Orzhov mana for a 3/2 Cat Nightmare, has a lifelink, and it says during each of your turns, you may cast one permanent spell with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard. We have a lot of permanents in the deck that are mana cost 2 or less, some of our auras, some of our creatures. So Lurrus is an absolute slam dunk in this deck. It's really strong. Being able to cast mainly your auras are what you're going to want, because if those go to the graveyard, it makes your commander a little bit weaker. So you're going to be needing to keep those auras onto the battlefield. Lurrus is a great way to do that. Another good way to get our auras back on is with Mantle of the Ancients. It's 3 white for an aura. Enchant creature you control. When Mantle of the Ancients enters the battlefield, return any number of target aura and or equipment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to enchanted creature, and enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it. So obviously this won't work with your curses or any sort of auras that are bad for your permanents, such as like your prison term or anything like that. So you're pretty much only going to want to be reusing the buffs with this one. So Mantle of the Ancients, not as strong as Lurrus or some of our other options, but it is nice to be able to get those back if we need to. Another fun one, I've actually never even heard of this one until I started putting this deck together. Nomad Mythmaker for 2 and a white. It's a 2/2 human nomad cleric. It says white tap, put target aura in a graveyard into play attached to a creature you control. So kind of similar to Mantle of the Ancients, but instead of the one shot, you're going to be able to do this repeatedly over and over. That's just good value, especially for 1 mana in tap. It's really not that bad at all. Next up, I'll go over some of the draw. Obviously, we are an Enchantress style deck. So we've got Core Spirit Dancer up first, 1 and a white for a 0/2 core wizard. It says Core Spirit Dancer gets +2/+2 for each aura attached to it. Not the important part, but it could be. Also, whenever you cast an aura spell, you may draw a card. So this one is our premier draw spell, along with stuff like SRAM and Mesa Enchantress. You know, those are our 3 big enchantresses in the deck. There's not too many others in white. Most of them are in green. So we'll take the ones we can get, especially for only 2 mana. This one's really strong. Another interesting one here. This one you got to think about, because it doesn't seem like a life gain deck, yet you have such strong life gain abilities on your commander. You're going to be gaining life on every single one of your end steps as long as it's out, because it's guaranteed that you're going to have auras on the field no matter what they are. So I got the Gaffer here. It's 2 and a white for a 2/3 halfling peasant. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, draw a card. So with your commander, the Gaffer, and 3 other auras out, I think it's pretty likely to happen, and you will be drawing a card on each of your end steps. Another one similarly, we got Well of Lost Dreams, also life gain based, 4 mana for an artifact. Whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of cards you gained if you do draw X cards. So just to round out our card draw package, throwing in some of these life gain cards might not work all of the time, but I feel like if you have your plan rolling and you're doing the thing that your deck wants to do, you're going to be gaining life pretty much every turn. So I think these cards are very well fit in this deck. And of course, last but not least, I got to talk about the general utility, just some cards that help move the deck along and smooth out its edges. So first up, I got Killian Ink Duelist, white and a black for a 2/2 human warlock with lifelink and menace. It says spells you cast that target a creature cost 2 less to cast. This makes all of our auras 2 cheaper, including our really expensive curses. So this is really necessary to have out early so we can start cheating some mana costs and get ahead of our opponents. I actually thought about building this deck multiple times for regular EDH and Pauper Commander. I thought this would be a really fun commander to play. However, I think I like it even better in the 99 because it doesn't have too much payoff other than reducing the cost of some of your auras. So when I saw Ariette, I thought I'd love to put it in a deck with Ariette because they would be a really good team together. Next up, I got a brand new one here. This one's from Commander Masters. Ondu Spirit Dancer, 4 and a white for a 3/3 core cleric. It says whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a token that's a copy of it. Do this only once each turn. So with that Cruel Reality or Curse of Fool's Wisdom or Curse of Misfortunes even, any of our curses or any of our auras or anything, with Ondu Spirit Dancer, that just becomes absolutely brutal. Creating token copies of them once per turn is pretty strong. 5 mana is kind of a lot, but I think it's really worth it for the effect you're getting there. Another great effect here that really pairs well with our commander, Strionic Resonator, 2 mana for an artifact, pay 2 and tap, copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Obviously, we're going to be aiming this at our commander's end step ability. That way it doubles up the amount of life our opponents are losing and the amount of life we're gaining. So you're going to want to be using this as much as possible. Last but not least, I got one that most people have not heard of, and this should be in every single aura deck. It's Scarab of the Unseen, 2 mana for an artifact. It says tap, sacrifice Scarab of the Unseen, return all auras attached to target permanent you own to their owner's hands. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So if you're planning on loading a bunch of auras onto your Ariette, having the Scarab of the Unseen down on the field is pretty much all the deterrent you're going to need to stop your opponents from killing your commander, because you just put your commander back in the command zone and all of the auras that are attached to it go straight back to your hand. This is an absolute game saver, because one of the biggest problems with auras in general is that you can get 2, 3, 4, 5 for 1 or whatever, however many auras you have stacked on a single creature. You use one removal spell and all of your mana and all your cards are gone. This will help protect that. Also, it's really cool that you can get this back with Lurrus. So really great card, Scarab of the Unseen. Definitely should see more play in aura decks. So that's pretty much all I've got for Ariette of the Charmed Apple. I think this deck looks so much fun. I'm most likely going to be transitioning my Zinc deck into this deck because I also had a Tatsunari Toad Rider Curse deck that was in Sultai that I tried to make work, and oh my god, it's impossible to make that thing work. It was tough. I went through several iterations of it and it just never did the thing I wanted it to do. And I think with Ariette, the payoff on her second ability is just what I needed to fully realize that curse deck. And I think this would be a great addition to my collection of enchantment decks because I have a lot of them. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to be uploading some more deck lists from some of the Wilds of Eldraine commanders as soon as I finish them. I'll probably have them up in the next couple days. So thank you guys so much for watching. I have the whole deck list down in the description if you want to check out the full build. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me in the future, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, take care.